Welcome into Hockey Sense, another edition, our Friday tradition here or live from the Half Coast Studios. We're not on radio. We are on YouTube. We are on all podcast platforms. Great to have you with us. Hopefully you've gotten the memo by now that you can find Hockey Sense right here each and every week on all your favorite podcast platforms. We've taken it away from radio. You never know, we may end up going back to radio. There's always been some discussions on that, but for now we are going to continue to do what we're doing right here on the Half Coast Studios platform. We love it here. Everybody takes great care of us, and hope you're enjoying the shows the last couple of weeks. This is going to be a great one. We got a long-form interview with Blues GM Doug Armstrong, kind of the State of the Union address on the season, which has come to an end. Winnipeg already has played a game against Dallas. They're down 1-0, and that series, game 2, taking place tonight. Although I didn't look at the schedule for the games tonight, so I should have. I mean, if it's every other night, as it should be, then Dallas and Winnipeg should be playing game 2 tonight. It's been the Mikko Rantanen show, which has been just incredible to see. Toronto and Florida tonight, and then Dallas in Winnipeg, game 2. Tonight in Winnipeg. Scotty Arniel saying that the team didn't look like they were playing in a Stanley Cup playoff game. It looked like game 45 of the regular season. I mean, they just came off of a 7-game series, which included a double overtime game against St. Louis in game 7 a couple of nights ago. Maybe difficult to flip the switch and get back into form, but nonetheless, it was the Mikko Rantanen show. Like I said, we'll get into that with Jamal Mayers and talk about that later on. As always, Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. We love our friends over at First Community. You know, they've got that Little Blues program. Get your son or daughter signed up. Get them signed up today. And introduce them to the game of hockey and see if they like it before you commit thousands and thousands of dollars to it. Just a small fee. You get a number of ice times, great instruction, and it's a lot of fun for the kids. Plus, all their equipment comes with it, including the skates. So if you don't know what to buy your son or daughter, if they want to play hockey and you go to the hockey shop and you're like, oh my God, man, I don't even know what to get. Well, you don't have to worry about it with Little Blues, brought to you by First Community, because you sign up and everything comes and arrives in your front door. Everything you need, from skates to stick to helmet, and then they're ready to go. So sign them up and do it today. First Community brings us Hockey Sense each and every week here on the one and only Hockey Sense, live from the Half Coast Studios. We love all our sponsors. Blue Note Roofing, 314-920-5713. Call David Novak today. Siding, roofing, gutters, soffit, fascia, whatever it is, give them a call, and they'll take great care of you. David Novak, man, proud Blues fan, proud hockey fan. He'll talk pucks with you. Of course, our friends over at Travel House. Give our friend Gail a call today. No matter what vacation you're looking for, ski trips, beach vacations, it could be all-inclusives. She can take care of you without question for whatever you need. So, again, she is the absolute best when it comes down to it. In terms of Travel House, they've been a full-service travel agency for almost 35 years now. It's just amazing. They offer all destinations. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays 10 to 2, 314-842-6000. 314-842-6000, travelhouse.com. That's H-A-U-S, Travel House. Give them a call. Also, Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop. Jump on in today to Dirt Cheap. Get everything you need, man. They got it all, and a number of locations sprinkled throughout the St. Louis area, so no matter where you are, you'll find a Dirt Cheap location. Many of them have drive-thrus, curbside pickup. You never have to get out of your car. That's how incredible it is over at Dirt Cheap. Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop, baby. Don't sleep on those party supplies. Paper goods, everything else. They got the best selection of beer, wine, and booze. Great cigars. The Wallace family just flat out getting it done over at Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop. We appreciate all the support. We've got more sponsors to come. We'll tell you about them as we move along. Again, Doug Armstrong coming up in a couple of minutes. We'll have Jamal Mayers also on the show today. We'll break down a couple of the playoff series. The Florida-Toronto series, very interesting. We'll talk about that with Jamal. Matthew Tkachuk, he's not even close to 100%, you can tell. Big news yesterday, Joel Quenneville gets officially introduced as the newest head coach of the Anaheim Ducks. Big shout out to Pat Verbeek and the ownership with Anaheim for getting that done. Big news, obviously, for Quenneville, his family. He's been waiting 4 years to get back into the league. Everything that went down. You just hope that everybody can turn the page, live a healthy, normal life, and move forward and learn from the past, right? Learn from the mistakes that were made in the past. And there's plenty of blame to go around. We still have never heard from John McDonough, the former president of the Blackhawks, but that's for another day. One day, maybe we'll hear from him. Maybe he'll take some accountability because he's just escaped, hasn't had to talk to anybody. McIsaac, all these guys, man. Nonetheless, Joel Quenneville back in the NHL behind an NHL bench, and it's a good team over there in Anaheim. The Blues, listen, a couple things we want to get into. First off, Dylan Holloway, I think we can now say it. Doug Armstrong confirmed it at his press conference and got the news out there that he did have surgery. We would have never have seen Dylan Holloway during the course of the playoffs. He had an oblique injury. Heard the muscle pretty much came completely off of the bone. Had to have surgery. And therefore, he was unavailable for the playoffs. And a lot of conversation and talk about Jordan Kyrou, who was not great in the playoffs. And I get it. Took the big hit from Logan Stanley. Maybe never recovered from that, both physically and mentally. But, he missed not having Holloway. But, it'll be interesting. We have to hear what Doug Armstrong had to say about Kyrou when we get to that. I think a lot of people just assume he's going to be traded this offseason. I think they assumed he was going to be traded the last couple of off seasons. You never know. If he were to get traded, it would be for a substantial package coming the other way, and he would be a major piece of a major hockey trade. I know people talk about Brady Tkachuk. He's got a couple years left on his deal, 3 years left on his contract. I think his no trade kicks in this summer. And once that happens, then he certainly is going to drive the bus in terms of how that plays out. I think Jordan Kyrou's no trade kicks in. For Brady, I believe it's a no move. But, the Senators just got back into the playoffs for the first time in years. He's their captain. Why would they move on from Brady Tkachuk? That wouldn't make any sense. But Kyrou still had 3 goals in the playoffs. Could he have played better? Probably so. But without Holloway, the Blues just didn't have that second line going. And maybe it looked like it at times because of all the goals they scored on home ice. But in reality, that line could never truly get going. Snuggerud came down to the second line. He was a little bit quiet in the last couple of games of the series. They put Kyrou back up with Thomas and Buchnevich for Game 7. And, you just look at the area of the ice where Kyrou scored. He was near the blue paint. He was at the blue paint when Schenn scored his goal earlier in the year. So it's not like he was just living on the outside the whole time. But it is what it is. Parayko didn't have his best series. You just wonder where he was at health-wise after missing so much time and coming back from surgery. Tyler Tucker won't need surgery, but he will be 100% when camp gets started. Jordan Binnington, Braden Schenn, goaltending coach, Davey Alexander, video coach, Elliot Mundu, all these guys headed over to Sweden to represent Canada for the World Championship. So there's still some stuff to go. If you like watching your favorite Blues players play, you can still certainly do that with the upcoming World Championships with Braden Schenn and Jordan Binnington participating. Binnington and Marc-Andre Fleury, that's going to be kind of a thrill for those guys, and for Schenn to go play on the same team with Sidney Crosby and Nathan McKinnon. So the World Championships become, in a way, must-see TV. I don't know if it's must-see TV, but it's appointment television. No reason not to watch when you have Crosby and McKinnon and Binnington playing. Obviously, you've got some legit superstars. Macklin Celebrini's there. So Connor Bedard, I believe, is there. So listen, this will be a fun tournament to watch once again. I'm not so sure how much to truly dive into the Game 7. The Blues had their chances. For whatever reason in overtime, they just were reluctant to shoot the puck. You see how Winnipeg scores their game-winning goal in overtime. It's just a shot from the point, deflects off a couple of bodies and goes in. That's typically the way goals are scored in overtime, unless you're Edmonton and somehow, some way, McDavid and Draisaitl break free on a 2-on-1. I feel like we've seen Draisaitl to McDavid or McDavid to Draisaitl score in overtime 500 times over the course of the last few seasons. How does that team ever lose in overtime? Do they ever lose in overtime? Alex Pietrangelo scored a goal for Vegas. He missed game 1. That tied things up to force the overtime, but Petro had a little bit of a tough game last night. Got beat a couple times. Threw a pizza out to the middle of the ice where the puck got away from him. He was the defenseman defending that 2-on-1 with McDavid and Draisaitl in overtime. Got beat behind the net earlier in the game as well. It wasn't his best playoff performance, but I would never rule out or count out the Vegas Golden Knights after losing the first 2 games of the series. Even though they lost them at home and they got to go on the road, they can certainly win a road game. They're going to need better goaltending, though, than what they got last night from Aiden Hill. Made some good saves, but some of the goals probably would like to have a couple of those back. I'll give Pickard a lot of credit for Edmonton. You know, he's making saves and getting it done. You just wonder what the future availability will be for Anthony Stolarz in Toronto. But the goaltending for the Maple Leafs, which has not been outstanding, it's been good enough. Florida's still proven they can score on Toronto. But the goaltending's been better than what Florida has gotten from Sergei Bobrovsky. So we'll see if Bobrovsky can elevate his game in that series. I love the Dallas series right now with Winnipeg. And I know it's only been one game, but I love watching Dallas play, and the fact that Mikko Rantanen has kind of come alive creates some great theater. Back to the Blues, though. You know, they're going to have some business to take care of. Radek Fox is a guy that, man, the simple way to look at it is that, yes, you've got to bring him back, and it would be nice to bring him back. He was making over $3 million a year coming off of his most recent contract. He signed a 5-year deal with Dallas. This was the final year of a 5-year deal, over $3 million per. How much of a pay cut is he going to be willing to take? I don't think you can pay him more than $3 million, but he probably is a $2.5, $3 million player. Just like Nathan Walker isn't a $750,000 player or whatever he's making. That guy's probably a $2 million player too. But at some point, you got to turn the page, and you're going to have to create some space and some room for some of these young guys to come in. They got a lot of young guys coming, but Dvorsky's the obvious one. If he can make the team out of camp, you'd like to find a spot for him. You got Sundqvist here for another year. You've got Schenn here for a handful more seasons. I don't think that situation has gone to bed just yet, and I would imagine another conversation will happen at some point this summer. They'll revisit the possibility of trading their captain. As much as people don't want to see it, and as great of a second half as Braden Schenn had, I really thought he came alive. I thought he really delivered and did his part as the captain of the team, just in terms of how he led the team, the physicality, the way his teammates talk about him. It's just spectacular, honestly. He's a really, really good captain. He's turned into a great captain. And I like seeing that from Braden Schenn. But business is business. We'll see how that plays out. He's got 3 years left. I don't think the Blues want Schenn as their number 2 center moving into next season. But if you could bounce him down and have him in the 3-hole, I think you're in a great spot. Maybe Sundqvist becomes your 4th-line center. I think maybe you're pushing the envelope a little bit, having Sundqvist in your top 9. Can still kill penalties, maybe be a net front guy on a second power play unit. But you know, he's not getting any quicker. And you certainly could use that speed in the middle of the ice, there's no doubt. So, again, Dvorsky, who's going to come in, he's not the fastest player either. So, you know, I agree with Doug Armstrong. I thought the idea of bringing in a guy like Matthew Joseph, that was the reason behind it, along with Texier, was to add to the overall team speed, make the team faster, make them quicker. Both those guys did that when they were in the lineup. But you'd like to see both players elevate their game to the point where the coach doesn't have to take them out after every couple of games, and maybe they need a reset. Ryan Suter was great for this team. What does the future hold for him? Can't imagine he'll play again and leave his family for another year. But you just never know. He loves the game. I don't see an opportunity for him here in St. Louis. I thought he ran out of gas down the stretch. I thought him sitting out a couple of games in the playoffs was probably good for him. He probably didn't like it, but it was probably good for him to kind of find that energy that you need in the Stanley Cup playoffs and down the stretch. The game is so fast. It's so physical. Would have liked to have Ryan Suter 10 years ago, man. Just a good player, throwback player, man. You don't see too many players like him. And then the Blues had some other young guys too. We'll see with, Kazamaki is a guy who, Santeri Kazamaki, he's a player the Blues drafted a few years back out of Finland and has not gotten a lot of attention. We've talked about him a couple of times here on this show about how high the Blues are on him internally. They really like what he brings to the table. And he's got some moxie to his game, more maturity than his experience should, suggest that he should play with. But he's going to be a good player, and he's going to play in the NHL. So I would imagine he'll get games next year. How soon he gets games remains to be seen, but he'll get games at some point. So we'll get into the Blues more with Jamal Mayers, and obviously a full conversation coming up with Doug Armstrong. So you don't need to hear from me when you got Doug Armstrong coming up. Lordo's Diamonds. Get that special someone, something special in your life from Lordo's Diamonds. Say hi to Mike and Jimmy when you go in there, too. Tell them I sent you, and ask them what they've done. Or you'll find out for yourself what they've done to be in business for 70 years. I mean, the best customer service you'll find anywhere over there at Lordo's Diamonds. They're absolutely incredible people. Best selection, best prices. If you go in there with a $100,000 budget or a $500 budget, doesn't matter. You're going to get treated the exact same, and they're going to find something that'll make you happy. And whoever you're purchasing it for, they're going to be happy as well, which is all that matters. Lordo's Diamonds right there in the heart of Ladue. 314-432-8008. 314-432-8008. It's going to be interesting to see what Doug Armstrong does this offseason, how busy he is. I keep watching a guy like Sam Bennett for Florida. I'll get into him with the Camden Strick podcast. How great would it be to land a Sam Bennett, put him in the 2-hole? Could you imagine, just 29 years of age? And I know there's going to be a lot of teams that are interested in him. Florida still is going to put something on the table for him to consider. They already have. They'll continue negotiating there. But if he could get $7 million here, for example, or $6 million per year in Florida to stay with a bunch of signing bonus money and no state taxes, is it worth leaving an organization that you're comfortable with, where you've won, all your friends are at? I don't see Sam Bennett signing with a Canadian team. I will say that, though. You can put that one. You can write that one in permanent marker. He's not signing with a Canadian team. So a lot of the Canadian fans are hoping that he lands with their team. I just don't see that happening. But I meant to get into Sam Bennett earlier in the show. So again, if the Blues are able to get a player like that, that could certainly ignite a lot of things. They want to move forward now. It's not like the Blues are now just going to take a step back and just say, hey, we're going to insert a bunch of young guys and let them grow. They want to win, and the bar has been set for next season. It's higher than it's been in several years, and they're going to be expected to compete for a division title, for a top 3 spot in the division. I don't know if they're going to win the division, but they'll be expected to be certainly in the mix for a top 3 spot. Although I don't know if that's the best spot to be in. Is it better to be in a 2-3 hole or better to be in a wild card sometimes? This year was probably better to be in a wild card, although the Blues still lost to Winnipeg, and they were the President's Trophy winner. But that 2-3 matchup between Colorado and Dallas, that went to 7 games as well. That was more like a conference final than a first-round matchup. But just incredible. 314 Sports Cards, 9460 Olive Boulevard in Olivet. Stop on in, say hi to Devin Sant. They've got the best selection of hockey cards you're going to find anywhere in the region. They've got an incredible selection of NFL cards, MLB cards, soccer cards, whatever it is you're looking for. Pokemon cards, they have those too. You can buy the individual cards, which are great for the kids. They come in, they can pick out their own individual cards. They have legends. They have current superstars, autograph cards. It's incredible. Or you can buy the packs, or you can buy the boxes. And they got a bunch of stuff. TVs are always on, couches for you just to sit back and chill. If you have memorabilia at home, you're curious to know what it's worth, what the value is, bring it in, and Devin and his team will certainly give you the valuation of whatever you bring in. 9460 in Olive Boulevard, on Olive Boulevard in Olivet. 314 Sports Cards, the best in the business. Again, First Community brings us the one and only Hockey Sense here live from the Half Coast Studios. We come your way every Friday. Doug Armstrong, Blues GM. Looking forward to this conversation. Think you'll enjoy it as well. Leave a comment, subscribe, hit that subscribe button. I want you to crush the subscribe button. And let's hear your comments, man. I love hearing the comments from the people. Appreciate all the support we get here on Hockey Sense. All right, back on Hockey Sense. Great to have Blues GM Doug Armstrong with us. As always, another appearance, Army. And I always love talking to you, whether it's during the season, after the season, because the NHL clock, it just never stops. So as a manager, I mean, just a gut-wrenching loss. Do you give yourself time to get over it, or is it really turn the page time and start focusing on taking care of business?
Yeah, and you never get over it, but you have to turn the page. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but our job's ahead of us, not behind us. And so we've had exit meetings. Jim Montgomery, Alex Steen, and I had a couple-hour meeting today about training camp, about summer plans for our coaches, summer plans for our players, summer plans for ourselves, how to prepare. Then I'm off to Europe to do the World Championships. And it's quite honestly, May and June are busy for management. World Championships, if you do that, then you have the Combine. And then we do our amateur meetings after the Combine, and then it's a couple of weeks till the draft. So it's a busy time, but it's you'd rather be with your NHL team, but when you're eliminated, you got to keep working.
When you lose a game like that, Army, what sticks with you? Do you play back the clock? Do you look at a couple of plays in the last couple of minutes and say, what if we did this differently? Do you try not to think about it? Do you and Monty go over the situation? Do you talk about it with your players? How do you handle that internally?
Yeah, I don't talk about it with the players. That's the coach's job. I think that I don't go back over the specific play. I go back over the situation that we're in and why we, that's on us. That's not, I congratulate Winnipeg for scoring 2 goals, but that's on us. We had ample time to learn how to kill a 5-on-6 this year, and we didn't do it. And so when we went down 5-on-6, sometimes you feel comfortable in a situation, and we didn't have enough positive feeling for me to feel comfortable in that. And unfortunately, it was 2 seconds too long, but those are things we have to get better at. And there's certain plays that happened there that you're wondering the thought process that went in, and was it the preparation? Was it the execution? And you dissect it, but certainly that's an area that we can't just assume is going to get better. We have to practice that more. We have to get better at that.
And I don't want to belabor the point too much, but I will say, I did ask a couple of coaches, like, is there anything you see, outside of St. Louis, but, some will say, hey, they allow the other team to enter the zone too easily. That kind of creates a lot of the chaos that you see that comes about it. But I always think of a 5-on-6 situation, Army, and you kind of talked about it, and you said, hey, maybe you guys allow yourself to get seamed a little bit too much. And there's situations like that may arise, but how much is a 5-on-6 just about desperation? I'm watching Dallas last night. It's just winning battles and clearing the puck out of the zone. I mean, is there really a whole schematic approach to having success in a 5-on-6?
Well, I think there certainly is an approach on where you want the shots to come from, where you put pressure, where do you accept them to give them opportunities from. I think it'll be one of those great pictures that'll live in hockey. There was an overhead from last night's game where there was the goalie on his belly and 5 Stars players on top of him trying to keep the puck out. That's the desperation. The way that the goals went in against us against Winnipeg, they weren't desperation plays at the net. You know what I mean? They were shots or tips, or there wasn't a lot of activity at the goal. It was just bang and it was in the net. I just think packing, putting the angling the puck into areas you want it to go to, we didn't do a good job at doing that. Meaning there's certain areas of the ice you want to give up and certain areas of the ice you want to protect. And the tying goal was a broken play. It's a fan shot that goes, but these are elite players on the ice at that time. It's not the best of the best that any team has to offer is on the ice offensively. And so there's not really such a thing as a broken play. It's just an opportunity for another skilled player. And it went, we got seamed, and then I think that was a great shot pass. And then Perfetti, does that's what first round picks do. They put pucks in the net.
Yeah, it was a great deflection. I mean, to get that much on it and get it under the bar. I will ask you this though. Before that, the play that was reviewed, was there ever any concern in your booth with you and your team upstairs that goal was going to be allowed, or did you feel comfortable that it was going to stand on the ice and that was going to be a no goal? The IFI kind of jamming his stick into pinning.
Yeah, I never saw the puck go in, but I also saw he was pushing at his pad that it was covered. So I wasn't that concerned. I guess I was more concerned that we were in that spot again and they were that close to scoring again, prior to the one that they got at the end. But I didn't feel that one. You never know. You never know what. Once they pick up the phone, you can have a belief, but you're not going to be 100% sure until they announce it. But I wasn't that concerned on that one.
I hear some people yelling for like the Blues should have taken a timeout after the icings, but you're not allowed to take a timeout off the icing, right? So that's one thing. I know Monty said maybe he wishes he would have taken a timeout. Are you thinking that at all during that sequence, or if they had the break there actually when the play was reviewed in terms of getting your guys rested and whatnot, but are you even thinking that at the time?
Not really at that time. I think that that benefited both sides. I would say the extended review, same guys were on the ice. You can second guess everything. That's what coaches are supposed to do. They're supposed to second guess when things don't go well. There was other areas of our structural system that broke down, and there were individual areas where we had opportunities to do things with the puck that we didn't do more than a timeout.
Yeah. The Holloway injury, it impacted so many different things, Army, because he was such a huge part of your team. And, I'm like everyone else. I'm really excited to see what he brings to the table next season, his second year with the team. Can he do it again? Can he, provide that level of offense that he gave you this year? I think everyone wants to see that. But, how did that impact other players? Kyrou, just that line. You mentioned it towards the end of the season. You have multiple lines going at the same time, and he was a huge driver and a huge part of that.
Yeah, he might have been one of our most consistent players all year long. And we didn't know what we had. We didn't know him until he got up and running, and then he just got off and he played consistent hockey. And he didn't change his game. He doesn't, no matter who he plays with, he plays the same style, whether obviously different responsibilities when he was in the middle for a while. But we missed him, but they missed Steelers. Dallas missed Robertson. Like everybody misses somebody. If excuses are a loser's tool, injuries are injuries, and you got to deal with them.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Hey, how do you view that? When did this become a thing where you re-sign or extend players with a year left on the contract? Well, when did this become really something that you see across the board teams do on a consistent basis? And is that something you're comfortable doing? I mean, I look at Fowler. Listen, he had a great season. He's 33, so I don't know if you look at any risk involved in terms of getting out in front of it. Same with Broberg and Holloway. I mentioned Holloway. I mean, do you want to wait and see how they look coming back next season before you really extend them? Although I'm pretty sure you're comfortable with the younger players in terms of what they're going to bring to the table. But how do you view that in general in terms of, extending players currently in the NHL?
Well, I think it's their status when their contract's up. If a player like Fowler, I'm hoping it's not the case with him. If we don't get him signed in the summer, if we decide not to, or we decide not to. But there seems to be an area now where unrestricted free agents, whether it's a date that the union gives them or something in their mind, or each individual, if you're not signed by this day, you might as well just hit the market and see what you can do. And usually those guys that get past a certain date, if they sign with their team, it's like 2 hours before the deadline.
Yeah.
You don't see many guys sign 10 days before the time. And so I think every individual is different. Last year we looked at some of our younger players. We felt that if we could sign them and they wanted to sign a year in advance, we would do that. Everybody was in a good spot. And if they don't do it, there's not a real concern because there's arbitration rights. The players are comfortable because they can select arbitration. The teams are comfortable. They can select arbitration also. Or you can go the old fashioned stare off and go to a holdout or a non-sign, however you want to look at it. So I think everyone's individually, every contract is an individual thing. And I view it like that. Some people you're comfortable giving security to. Some people I think play stronger with a shorter leash. And I think it's knowing the individuals and trying to figure out what's going to make them maximize, knowing that you want them part of your team though.
Can you give us any intel into how the conversation started with Pat Verbeek to get Fowler? Did somebody come to you and say, "Hey, I've been watching the, you're looking for a defenseman"? Who initiated those calls? Because it just worked out so much in your favor. I mean, it's just a hell of a trade you pulled off.
Yeah, it's one of those ones. I keep a detailed call log. We've probably talked about him for 8 years, 7 years. We liked him as a player, and there's just different maturations that teams are going through. And you had an organization that was playing players ahead of him because they were at a different point. And talking to Cam, he got that. And what I didn't know Cam Fowler from a hole in the ground until we got him here, but he was a guy that was willing to play less minutes, be removed from prime ice time, and still, from what I heard, be an unbelievable teammate and help those guys grow. And so what we did is we just got a player that could go back to things he used to do in the past to see if he could still do them, and he could. I think I know exactly what Anaheim, or I believe I know what Anaheim was thinking and trying to do, and it was right for where they're at. They had to get young players, get experience, and finishing where they finished in the standings wasn't as much of a concern as growing their youth, and that comes at the expense of a veteran. We did that a little bit, quite honestly, in the last year. We put Dean in, we put Bolduc in, and they weren't coming out, and that's just the growth that you have to go through. Now that was at the end of the year, not a whole season, but I think just having relationships. Pat and I go back to he was a player, I was assistant manager in the 90s. We knew each other. We stayed good professional friends. Talk a lot when he was assistant manager in Tampa, so that the relationships are easy to have. And it's just we needed a veteran player at that time. That's what we believed, and he had a veteran player at that time that he needed to give ice time to different people, and so it was something that worked out for everybody.
All right, is that a first round pick if it's closer to the deadline? I mean, if you get out in front of it as you did in December, can you get a little more of a bargain? Can it work that way?
No, well, again, it's the use of the player at the time. Do you know what I mean? So now, could I have got a first round pick for him? Sure. We got him up and running and he was humming. He wasn't up and running, he wasn't humming in Anaheim. So it's situational. Do you know what I mean? And so now would I've asked for, would Pat have asked for a first round pick? Sure. You never, you never get less than you ask for. You never say, no, that's too much, give me a little less. But I look at all the three things that we did this year. We could have, if we wanted just to acquire draft picks, we could have got a better draft pick for Holloway. We could have a better draft pick for Warburg and a better draft pick for Fowler if we wanted to trade them all. But we didn't want to trade them all. They came in here, and it's how they're playing and the role they're playing in is just as important as when they're going to be free.
I know. I remember talking to Holloway and Broberg after the Vancouver game when Broberg scored the overtime winner from Holloway. And they were just like, yeah, if we were in Edmonton, we wouldn't even been on the ice. in the 3-on-3 situation, you know?
Yeah, and look at Edmonton. They're in the round of 8. They're up one. Like I don't you they're going for cups, and I get it. Like you know, hindsight is perfect.
Yeah.
Except I understand what, like, the Oilers are in a good spot right now with a hell of a team, and we're in a good spot with a younger team, but we're not the Oilers.
Yeah, I know, and they look good right now. There's no doubt. I know a year ago your team was in a different spot, but I remember you telling me that you told Drew Bannister, "Hey, when Bolduc comes up, you don't typically tell the coaches where to play and who to, but you like this guy needs to play in a role that we need to see him in, play with good players, top 6 role, whatever you told him." Similar discussion with Jim Montgomery when Snuggerud got here this year, or based on where you were in the standings and in the season and chasing a playoff spot, was that not a conversation you had?
We had it, not as firm, or not as, not, I don't say firm. We were in a different spot, that what I asked Jim to do was to give him a fair opportunity to see if he could do what our staff thinks he could do. And to Jim's credit, he did, and now if he had 2 bad first, like if he was just couldn't play the first game, he wouldn't have got a second game in that area because he didn't need to. We were fighting for a spot. So he took advantage in practice, and that's where young players, and I give Snuggy a ton of credit. He was an excellent practice player, doing things from day one that caught the coach's attention, but more importantly, caught the players' attention. Like Robert Thomas, at that point, he's humming along. He wants to play with someone who's going to keep him humming along, and he saw the talent that Snuggy had. Now, if he has bad practice habits, he doesn't get that. If he has a bad game out of the gate, he doesn't get that. Where Boldy and Dean coming up, we were not trending towards making the playoffs. We had that window had shut on us. We had worked our way back into, if I remember correctly, into pushing for a playoff spot. Then I think we lost 6 or 7 in a row. That sealed our fate. This year, we'd won 6 or 7 in a row, which made it, keep pushing. And I give Monty a ton of credit because the natural belief would be we're playing really good. Why would I do that? Now, probably coincide with Holloway getting injured, opportunity. I don't know if he gets the same opportunity if Holly's there, but all I know is that whatever opportunity he was given, he maximized.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Listen, you got the attention of a lot of general managers too. And Army, you've won Stanley Cups and stuff like that, so it's tough to say this is your best year, but it's hard to top what you did this year. I mean, going back to the summer, and then you look at the coaching change, and you look at the Fowler trade, and the Brandon Saad situation is interesting too, because I mean, I don't know how you were able to do that. How does that come together with you and Brandon Saad? Is that a mutual agreement? I mean, he's a proud guy. He's obviously an NHL player. He's not going to go down and play in the minors. So for that to come together the way that it did, I mean, it was a luxury for your team, and it gave him an opportunity to go play somewhere else. So that was another great move for you, Army. So I don't know how you look at your season, if you reflect on that or if you let other people do the reflecting and judging how you do. But can you touch on that at all, Brandon Saad? Like, how do you guys come to that agreement there?
Yeah, well, I think I'll take that as a 2-part question.
Yeah.
And then the first part is something that we touched on, is that you have different times when you can make significant changes to a group that have a long-term effect. Long-term meaning a couple of years or longer. And you might get, Andy, 3 of those over a 5-year span. We were fortunate just by happenstance to get 3 in a year. Less than a calendar year, 3 in what would it have been, 4 calendar months. Bringing in Holloway and Broberg, that helped our group because it fit into that younger group, and they came in and played as good or better than we expected. So all of a sudden there's a belief from Thomas and Kyrou and Neighbors and Bolduc that hey, they've got support in their age bracket, which was positive. The other one was, Jim Montgomery come available and us going to an experienced coach that had, the NHL's, it's an old league, and he's got the best regular season record for a single season. So I think everyone knew we brought in a really good coach. And then the Fowler trade, like we were trying to stabilize our D. He played well beyond expectations. I don't know statistically, Andy, exactly where he was, but he had to be in the top 5 or 6 or top 10 for sure in a lot of categories after the trade. So those are three things that by themselves are not organization like altering forever, but they're more than 2 or 3% changes. So we had three and 4 months. So that's where I think, and that's just some years you can do, or sometime you can do it over a 5-year span. We were able to do it just because it fell into our lap. I think that was the biggest. And the Saad thing was just, again, we were faltering again. We had come out, Monty had came in here, and we played very well. We had put ourselves in a great spot. We were coming off of a really exciting organizational night in Chicago, the Winter Classic. And then, we fell back into our old habits of losing games when it mattered. We had fought our way back in to an interesting part, and then all of a sudden we start to lose again. And it just felt like deja vu all over again. We did that the year before. Remember when Drew came in, we went on a really nice heater. Yeah. We fought our way right back in, and then we lost 7 or 8, and then we decided to bring up Bolduc and Dean, and we had done that just going into the Four Nations. Weren't playing good going into the Four Nations, and it's amazing when you look back and you look back at the points you gain, and you don't really remember those, or I mean the points you lose, you remember those a ton. But we had no right getting points out of that Chicago game before the break. We were red rotten, and I was a high, I don't know, was it 7'6", 6 foot, whatever it was. I wasn't there. I was in Europe. I was scouting. I was watching it going. I was in Sweden. I said, I can't believe I'm standing up to watch this. And then, but that turns in to coming out of the break, and we go on a large run. So with the Saad part, I was way off track on talking about Saad on that, but we weren't playing great, and we wanted to make a statement that we were going to go to give guys like Bolduc or Texie, I think I mentioned at that time, an opportunity. And Sauter was just the first of many dominoes that might have fallen. And to his credit, and that's the type of pro he is. Like, yeah, this is a business, but he bet on himself that, you know what? I'm going to walk away from this money. I'm going to now have the pick of the litter on where I want to go to. I'm going to find a team that wants me, that I can envision having a long playoff run, and I'll make this money up. And to his credit, he picked a team. They're in the final 8. They're in a good spot. He's played well there. And I think the understanding was he was more likely to have a big role in the NHL in 25, 26. Coming from a situation like that than coming from Springfield.
Yeah. Well, I talked to him afterwards. He was not angry. He's such an even keel guy as it is, but
he's an unbelievable human being, and quiet. That's one of his greatest strengths, probably. Yeah. He's he's one of those people, Andy, that you respect, but you never really know. Like I love talking to him, but we never talked. He just came in, he did his business, and he left. And, when things are going good, that's unreal. Like, you want guys come in, do their business. When things are going bad, you're pushing and prodding for more. And it's not like he was certainly never a negative here. It was just our team wasn't good enough.
Yeah. No, he and Letty they hang out a lot together. Neither of them talk very much, but that's why they get along so well.
They have that American mental telepathy going back and forth.
I know. So, did you underachieve prior to the coaching change? Did you overachieve after the coaching change, or is that who you thought you could be? Because I know privately you said prior to the season that you thought this could be a playoff team. I don't think you went out publicly and made any crazy declarations. But I know privately you felt like, hey, if this thing comes together, they could potentially get there. But I'm just trying to figure out how you view the two halves of the season. Did you underachieve, then overachieve, or did you underachieve and then get back to where you thought you could be?
Well, I was the point totals. It looks like that. What was disappointing? I don't say disappointing, but that's probably the right, is that we couldn't just accept who we were, what we were doing, and pull together until we had to have another major change. Mm-hmm. Now, the major change was Monty. He's a hell of a coach. But like I believe in Drew. I saw Drew take an American League team to the championship round. I seen what he does. He's a good coach too. But we always found reasons, internally why not to make it work. And then when Monty came, we started to find reasons why it should work. And I give Monty and his staff a ton of credit. I give the players a ton of credit. I think Brian Burke calls it that dead cat bounce. We got that. And then what I thought Jim did a great job is when we went through that lull in January, he was able to bring it back together. And what the group did, and the players, it's 90% players, let's be honest. What they did after the Four Nations is historical, is the winnings, the number of points they were able to gain. Organizationally is historical. I'm not sure what do we have, 15 wins in a row at home to end of the season. This is the manager of me, but I had to tell him, yeah, but unfortunately we also had 7 road losses in a row at the end of the year. That's true. I have the ability to rain on the parade pretty easy. But no, I give the guys a ton of credit for what they were able to do, and it starts with Monty. So at the end of the year, I thought we should be in the mid 90s point wise. I thought we were better than we were a year ago when we had 92. I thought we were more mature. I liked the additions that the pro staff recommended, whether it's the Holloway Broberg, but also I like Matty Joseph coming in, and like we brought speed into our group. So I think that's where we should have been, right in that neighborhood.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fair. And the way it came together, there's no question that it looked like that. Although Fowler wasn't part of the equation in the first half of the season either, at least for a good portion of the game.
But also Leddy was hurt too.
Yeah.
Like if Leddy doesn't get hurt, do we do the Fowler deal? I don't know. Like I really thought Leddy had a great year a year ago. Him and Franco played very well together.
Yeah.
If we go back, at least in my assessment, they were a good pair. And I thought those two guys, and you had Broberg and Falk, that would round out our 4. You get to what was a game 3, Leddy goes down and he's out months, and we didn't have the depth to overcome that. Now, again, you sort of like we fell on our feet a lot this year. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like Suits coming in, everyone, what's he doing here? Then what was it? Probably 5 weeks. He was playing 5 weeks consecutive, like every night, playing 22 to 26 minutes. Yeah. Like we didn't bring him in to do that. No. And I was in awe of what he was able to accomplish over that time frame, mm-hmm. at his age, at his, wear and tear that he's had, and his professionalism. If nothing else, I hope our D and I hope our group learn what it was like to be a pro from him. Like guys are, nicked up, bumped up. Here's a 39, 40-year-old man that's played his, 1,500 hockey games or closing in on it. He's finding a way for the flu not to bug him. He's finding a way for a block shot on the foot not to bother. He found a way not to be bothered by so much. I had so much respect for what I watched him do over that time frame when a team really needed him.
Yeah. He always tells me, he's like, I got man strength. That's the difference between him and everybody else.
He's got grandpa strength.
Yeah, I know. And maybe he was running out of gas a little bit down the stretch, and I think bringing Tucker in and giving him, even though it's the playoffs and it gets a lot of people's attention, but that was probably good for him, honestly, just to kind of have a little bit of a break and take a breather, for a guy like him too. So, but he was better than advertised. There's no doubt about that. Kyrou gets a lot of attention, Army. I thought he had one of his best, if not his best, regular seasons of his career. And sometimes your playoff performance can be based off of matchups. Sometimes it's a good matchup for you. Sometimes it's not. Took the big hit. I don't know how you feel like he recovered after the hit. Maybe if it's a playoff series against Colorado, more of a track meet, maybe he shows a little bit differently. But can you view the whole package? Are you left with just an idea of how you saw him play in the playoffs, or can you really appreciate what he did in 82 games? Because he shows like some underrated toughness too during the year. He gets hit, he gets up, he never misses games. Like he's durable, and there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, I think for whatever reason there's lightning rod players, and he seems to be that guy. And I don't know why. It was funny when Jay Bowmeister was here, he was that guy, and I would be like, what are people watching? Like I don't get what that is. And then when he's not here, we realize like the people that were the lightning rod, they were like, well, where do you go? You know, we need him.
Yeah.
Like but to Jordan, I just think that because he brings people out of their seats at certain times, they like to see it all the time. Well, he would like to, but the opposition has something to say about that too. You know, I thought he had a good season. I thought it was probably the hardest matchup he was going to get. We were going to get defensively with Shen and Stanley. You know, the way they wanted to play him. You know, not a lot of teams have that back there. But again, it's game 7. He scores a goal from me to you, or from me to my computer right now away to start the scoring. You know, like he's at the blue paint, it goes in the net. So I think there's a lot more positive there than maybe I think you realize it. I think there's some, and you're not, you know, some people you're never going to make happy. Like that's the reality of it. But I think Jordan Kyrou's made more believers this year than he's ever had in the past.
Yeah, and he was at the blue paint when Shen scored early in the series too. Took a stick in the face at the same time. Like, I don't know. I went to a radio show this morning with the 101 guys and taking questions from the listeners, and that's I mean, so many questions about Kyrou. It's always about Kyrou, but he scored 36 goals this year. I mean, he had a. I think you're asking players to make strides, right? And he really did over the course of the last few years. So there's something to be said for that.
I think one of the things too, Andy, that he learned is that when you're a circled player, you know, you're going to get special attention. Meaning, you know, we had guys on their team that we circled. We wanted to drive out of the series. Like, you know, that's how playoffs work. That's why it's a 7-game grind. And you know, my belief is you hit in first, second, and third. You grab an ounce every time you can. You grab an ounce of flesh, and then by game 5 and 6, you look in your pocket. You got a couple of pounds of flesh.
Yeah,
and that's when it really pays off. And I think the one thing that I don't think we were prepared for mentally was that it might have been game 79 for us or 80 going into Winnipeg at the end of the season. I really felt that they circled that game as game 1 of the playoffs. If you know what I mean, they were, you know what, we're comfortable. We're going to win if these guys get in, they're going to likely get in to play us, or it could have been mini, whatever. But they thought it might be us. And I don't even remember the hit he took in that game from Stanley. Oh. Like to me, that was, boys. Like if you get in, get ready. You're going to get the 7-day dose of this, the 7-game dose of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no doubt. But you know, this is sometimes these type of scars, you know, or you know, can help you moving forward too. Like they'll remember this. So like I guess that's the way you look at it from a positive
you look at it, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger.
Yeah. Did Kyrou or did Parayko, do you feel like he was 100% coming out of his injury, or it took some time to get back up to speed?
I'm a firm believer that I don't think anyone that plays in the NHL gets to March 100%. No, he missed time and came back, but I think he was coming back into the same spot where everybody else was at, which was banged up a little bit. He had a great year for us. He was a horse from day 1 to the end. And we talked about Bo a little bit earlier, like that, when you're out against the other team's best players every shift that you're on the ice, the likelihood of you being at the scene of the crime is great. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, because you're out there against the best players all the time.
Right.
And I just know he's such a strong 200-foot player. His offense came this year, but his defending, his ability to kill plays, he's a heck of a hockey player.
All right, a few more things for your Army, and I'll let you go. But go back to the trade deadline, because he got hurt the game before, obviously. That had to be a difficult situation for. What do you do? Because you could not have seen your team rolling off 12 consecutive victories without him in the lineup. Nobody saw that coming. Was it difficult to stand pat? I know some other things kind of factor in with, players have different language in their contracts and whatnot, but did you really believe they could get in at that point in time? Was it hard to stand pat and not at least get something coming for the future, thinking that you were probably going to be on the outside looking in, or what was your mindset?
A little insight into that. So we went into came out of the Four Nations, and I was honest with my counterparts that if we continue to play the way we are, we will look at trading players, and we're ready to assume money on contracts to increase assets. But if we win, if you want to buy now, because who knows what tomorrow's going to look like. Well, tomorrow never came because we started to win and we won. And I thought we went into Washington and that was a massive win. Like, that's a hell of a team, good at home, and we won that game. And then we went out west, and going into the LA game was like, if we can get this game, then we can't do it. We can't rip their heart out, and so that game ended. I made a couple of calls to teams, and said, listen, we're not going to go that direction. They've earned the right. And then about 30 minutes later, I got a call about Parenko. And then we reconvened, and all right, now what? Like, let's work these odds out. What do we have to do to get to, I thought 92 points might be the number, the way everybody was playing. What do we have to do to get to 92 points? And I think it was like 680 hockey from that point on. And then I said, well, we haven't played 680 hockey for that long of a period in 2 years. What makes us think we're going to do it right now when we need to? And so we had to, that was with Colton in there. Without Colton, it changed everything. But so we decided, we did reconvene. Do we want to start looking at moving things for futures? And we never got to that. Any trade we were going to make, Andy, pretty well that last week was going to be, if we were winning, was going to be a hockey trade where we were going to get something that was going to affect us today and positively in the future, not just in the future. And the Parenko one gave us a little bit of time to sit back and reflect, but that was still the same answer.
So, and then that's fair. And that's why you're sitting in the GM chair. It's tough to be under fire and have to make those decisions, on the spot. That's a lot of pressure. There's no doubt. How do you balance now moving forward, though? Because you got the Foxa decision looming. You still have Sonny, who's under contract. You got Shen, obviously, under contract for a few more years. You want to get Dvorsky and some of these young guys in there, but the bar's now been raised, and the expectations are being raised. So how do you balance youth versus veterans to allow you to meet those expectations moving forward and trying to get some of these young kids in here?
Well, I would say we're not in the same spot we were a year ago, where we were going to put Bolduc on the team, barring he didn't have a horrendous training camp, and live with what was coming. And that's sort of the message we left Snuggie with, is that, we envision you on our team, but our expectation level has risen now. So you have to have a great summer, come in and make sure that the coach believes we can win with you now, because our mindset has changed. Mm-hmm. One of the positive things for this group this year is we do have 2 unrestricted free agent in Fasca and Suter, but I think our only other RFA off of our team is Hofer. So it's not like there's a lot of work to be done signing players or whatever. I think the players left our exit meeting angry that we were having it, like excited for the future, because they know that everyone's under contract and they can build off of that. I would share their vision that everyone's under contract and we continue to build. And it's less likely that we're going to give a job away to someone that can't hold water. So we're not chasing a playoff spot next year.
Where are you at cap wise this offseason? Like, could you dip into free agency? Could you see yourself making a move or bringing in a player via trade who, makes a decent amount of money? Like, are you in position to do that?
That's a better question for Mr. Stillman. No,
he's coming on next week.
No, I think that they've always, our local ownership group has always been very open about wanting to do what's best to stay competitive. One of the things that we're working on is LTI, summer LTI, like off season, in season. And it's a difference how you can use that. I don't want to bore you with the CBA, but if you go into off season LTI, your cap is your cap. You can't go over it. If you go in season LTI, it grows. For every day you're not there, it grows. And so our goal would be to stay in in season LTI. But if we can sign some free agents, then you're into off season, and it's a different math equation. So I think I probably confused myself more than I answered that question, but we have a vision on what we need to do. And if the proper trade or free agent is there that takes us into off season LTI, we have the ability to do that. And that's 10 plus million.
All right, so it's your last season with the GM title here in St. Louis, but you're still going to be president of hockey. So you're not retiring, you're not going anywhere. So your mindset doesn't change. It's not like you feel more urgency to try to just go all in at the cost of the future moving into next season, so Doug Armstrong can go out with at the highest level, right? I mean, you're still thinking long term, like you would every other off season, or is it a little bit different coming into this summer?
No, I've tried to pride myself in never doing what was right for me.
Yeah.
Always what's right for the organization. And this summer will be no different. The difference is for me, and it's just, this only affects me, it doesn't affect anyone else, is, my outlook post this year on how I can support the team from a different level. Because what hasn't changed during last year when it was a bad year, or the decade or plus before that, which were good years, is my love of being a manager. And Tom and I talked about what was best for the organization to bring a new manager in, that was years away. Now it's months away, and I'm starting to realize things I'm going to miss about this job, and I'm going to have to be able to fill that void psychologically on how I can continue to help the team by not doing the job I'm currently doing.
Yeah. I hope Steener's not mad at me, because I just did a whole rundown of how all the best GMs in the league today didn't have NHL careers or long NHL careers, but the ones who had great NHL careers don't seem to be having a lot of success right now. So tell him not to read too much into that.
There always has to be an outlier.
Yeah, I know. A couple things on the young kids. We mentioned Dvorsky, Stenberg, Lindstein. Lindstein's his loan agreement, right? That's expired. do you expect to have him over in North America next season? Yes. How close are these guys to getting to?
Well, this is when we started to talk about our whatever, it was the year that we drafted 3 players in the first round: Dvorsky, Stenberg, and Lindstein. These guys are all just turning 20 now. So this was really the first year we were going to start seeing these guys pop in. We saw Dvorsky come up and grab a cup of coffee this year. I expect those guys to continue to push, but that they've done very well. They've done very well playing in men's leagues as 18 and 19-year-olds now, being in North America. Dvorsky could have played junior hockey this year in Canada, went pro, had a good first season. Again, you can't rush size, you can't rush strength, and you can't rush maturity. I thought Stenberg, he left playing in men over there, came back over here after the World Junior and played, and Lindstein team lost in game 6 in their championship round. So I think these guys are going to turn pro, and I'm hoping that we start to sprinkle some of these guys in. Kaskomaki's another guy that I'm excited about. Leo Loof's played well down there. Ellis has played excellent in goal down there. Yeah. I think we can start sprinkling some of these guys in here, and we're back to, Andy, where I think we were when you start to hit your prime, is when you play a game at 7:00 at night. That's for the score, but the real competition is every day in practice. And right now, we went a couple of years where there was no internal competition, and now, because of the strength of our depth, players realize that if you don't they should realize if you don't play well, if someone's looking for your job, and that's what we're tasking everyone with, is to be a great teammate, but take your teammate's job. That's how pro sports works. And the stronger your internal competition is, more likely the better you're going to be when there's someone wearing a different jersey across from you.
And then last thing, it's going to come out here shortly before this interview comes out, but Binnington and Shen are heading over to the World Championships, right? And a couple of your coaches also headed over. When does your mind transition into start thinking about the Olympics also? I mean, there's so much on your plate right now, Army.
Yeah, I don't view it like that. It's all hockey. It's just how you watch it. and I don't view this as a job or anything. I just love doing it. But I'm going to go over the World Championships. I love going to games now because I can go for two reasons. I can watch the best players for Team Canada, how they're performing, and what do they do to get on our radar screen for the Olympics. But I can also, I think we're going to play Dvorsky's team over there. I know we're playing Texier's team over there. I'm going to be able to see free agents from Europe that are going to be there. It all melds together, but I think you try and multitask. And like during the playoffs, I was talking to Kyle Dubas, who's managing Team Canada, about that group, talking about players, and it's more, Andy, of a learning experience this than anything else. I learn way more than I give about listening to the scouting staff. They did a great job. Hockey Canada, they had 4 pro scouts, assistant GMs or pro scouts, Jason Spezza, Gregory Campbell, Dennis Bonvie, and Andrew Cogliano, and they're talking about players. Now, their job is to watch these players every night, and I'm the benefactor of giving my opinion, hearing their opinion on knowledge of players. So it's a great asset to be able to talk to guys about hockey all the time.
Even if you have a Swede sitting next to you, he could be giving intel of what's going on to Team Sweden there, Army. So you gotta be careful there when you're talking.
Yeah, that's all right. Like I'm not pushing Alex, but I'm hoping I'm trying to tell Alex how this benefits your day job, being part of your national team. And he saw that 2 years ago. We helped the Swedish junior team, and the information he had on Otto, on some of those players, was fantastic. And it's not, you're not going there to steal information about other. It just comes natural. Yeah. And so I know what you're saying, tongue in cheek, but I'm hoping Alex gets involved with the Swedish national team moving forward as a manager, because it's just gains him so much information, not only on the players, but on the trainers, on the coaches, and how other people see the game.
Yeah, no. And I would imagine they'd want him too. So all the best, Army. I appreciate it, man. Have a safe trip over to Europe, and I always keep you longer than you probably anticipate. So I apologize.
Doing this.
It's a lot of questions. I know we could, but I'm pumping the brakes right now. So have a good summer. I know we'll be in touch, and I appreciate it as always.
Always great to talk to you, pal. Take care.
Okay, see you, Army. All right, back on Hockey Sense. Hope you enjoyed that conversation with Doug Armstrong. Thank you to Army for coming on.
You get him a gift certificate or something for coming on?
I gotta get him something, because he just sat with us for a good 45 minutes.
Because don't go cheap either. Get him Napoli or Palmanos.
Something nice.
Yes. Fleming's.
I give good gifts for the most part.
I haven't gotten one. We're gonna have a wrap-up dinner or something?
Maybe.
We should.
You're not wrapping up yet. We got the playoffs to get through. No, but we'll go all year round here. People know that Hockey Sense. I go all year round. You know, there's lots of stuff to get into that people always care about, because, even through the playoffs, which will take you through June, then you have free agency. You got prospect camp that takes place. There's the draft, obviously. So there's a lot of things that kind of keep you preoccupied. And then you get into August, and now you start thinking about training camp the following year. Guys are coming back into town and start.
Yeah. You know what I would think would be interesting? You should do. I just thought of this. Well, obviously we know about Dvorsky. Obviously we've seen the evolution of Tucker. Who's coming next? Who's the next wave of top end prospects, like top 4D in the next 2 years, top 3 forwards that are pushing
inside the organization. Yeah, we talk about that. I got into a little bit of that in the open of the show, and listen, the Blues took a first-round pick last year, and Adam Juracek, defenseman, has been hurt. That's one thing I forgot to get into with Army about in terms of his health and where he's at. But He hasn't played a lot the last couple of years because of injury. I think he only played like 29 games this year. So he's going to have to get back up to speed. But
you know what would be an interesting question?
Yeah.
Sorry, did I digress?
Yeah. They got another first-round pick, Theo Lindstein, coming from Sweden. So he'll be here next year.
As they transition to Steener,
Mhm.
now Steener is going to see things a little bit differently. It's a different person, different vision, different. Who makes those decisions that are going to affect things 3, 4, 5 years away from now?
Yeah.
When we start to transition, how is that going to mechanically work? I don't understand.
Well, how do you think it'll work? Because, Army still has another full season, this offseason, as general manager. And it's not like he's stepping into a role that's going to be beneath the GM. He's stepping into a role that's still going to be above the GM, where he's going to be president of hockey.
Great point. So this is further to my point. This summer, if Army decides we're close, we're adding, we're going in the free agency. And what if Steener says, no, we're 5 years away? Maybe we're 4 to 5, not 2 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's a player he wants to be a part of his plan moving forward.
That's the spot that kid's going to take in 2 years. And now you just went out and got in a free agency.
It's interesting because that's why this is a unique situation where you don't see too many of the heir apparent who is, working inside, or the successor who's working inside the organization, but they have been working together for a few years. And I think they are on the same page. It's unrealistic to assume they're always going to be on the same page with everything. It's just, you can't assume that.
My assumption would be, and I think you should pose this, is the tie should go to Steener, where they disagree and they can't come to an agreement because Steener is the successor. He has the final say. That would be my suggestion.
I would think in other situations, you had Brian Burke working above Brad Tree living in Calgary. You look at the situation right now in Vancouver with Patrick Allvin as the GM, and then
that's not a good example.
No, but you look at their longtime executive who's now as the president there in Vancouver. I apologize.
To me, that's an example of how not to do it.
No, I'm just saying. Typically, those guys, the president, I think, Jeff Gorton, for example, in Montreal. He is a GM at heart. He's the president in Montreal primarily because of his inability to speak French, which is why Kent Hughes was brought in to be the general manager. But I think Jeff Gorton has final say. He's the president of hockey. He should have final say. I think the president of hockey should have final say when you are the president. Now, if you're the general manager and president, then, hey, you get to have it your way. But I think when you are the president of anything, you're the power structure, the food chain. You're above the general manager, but you have to respect the GM because the GM obviously is going to be there long term, and you got to find a way to be on the same page with a number of different things and let him make decisions.
I think that's the right point.
And I think that's where Army will allow him to live and die with certain decisions that are made, and it's going to have to be Steener to address it publicly. This is why I made this decision. This was my decision. I made it, and he's going to have to live with it, whether it's successful or unsuccessful. So
that's interesting. I think that's going to be interesting to watch how that unfolds.
Oh, I think a lot of people are because it's different. We've never really seen that situation here in St. Louis. It's always been Army's department, right? And I would think in year one, it still will be. And I'll throw this out there too. And I don't know what Army's plans are as an executive moving forward, but he loves to manage hockey teams. He loves being a manager. I think this was a succession plan that was an organizational decision too. This is probably the best thing for the organization moving forward. Eventually, you got to get somebody else in here. Blues have won a Stanley Cup. Why not keep it in-house, keep it within the family? Steen obviously has been working within the organization. He was doing some stuff internationally with Sweden, and they felt like he would be the best candidate moving forward. Give him a couple years to learn under Army before he takes over. But if another team were to come calling, like the Toronto Maple Leafs, for example, and maybe only the Toronto Maple Leafs, I think that would be a difficult position for Doug Armstrong to turn his back from. Not to say that he would accept it or he would take it, but I think that's the one team. I truly believe that's the one team that he would maybe have interest in going to run if the situation were to present itself. You got a head coach in there who you know. Now, if Toronto gets to the conference final, Brad Treliving he's gonna have he's in position to be that general manager for a number of years. Good decision. So but now if they lose this series, if Florida comes back and wins this series, and then they get out of the gate next year, they don't have a great season next year, why wouldn't the Maple Leafs organization pick up the phone and call Doug Armstrong and say, hey, do you have interest in coming here and being the general manager? I will say this about Doug though, and I've always felt this way. I'm not going to say that he wouldn't go to like Toronto, for example, and work under Brendan Shanahan, but I don't think that would be the best thing for the organization. If another organization were to hire Doug down the road after Steener's been the GM here for a couple of years and Army gets the itch to go be a GM again, it would have to be a situation where it would be a president/GM type role. I don't see him working under anybody, nor should he.
Yeah, that's fair. It'd be interesting to see how that works.
Like out. I hear with the Islanders, they want a president/GM. And whether or not they identify that guy and say, hey, you got to have the right candidate who can do both roles. I think Kenny Holland would be a guy who could do both roles. Like a guy like Jarmo Kekalainen, who I know who they've talked to also, he's probably not a guy that you look to be the president and GM if they were to even hire him.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to see how that works out. I think also Steener, I think when he does take over, it'll be interesting to me to see who he brings in as his right-hand guy. Mm-hmm. To me, it's not going to be, maybe it's Walt. Maybe Walt slides into a different position. Mm-hmm. But I think the people Army had around are not going to be the people that Steener's going to want, mm-hmm. right? And there's nothing against that.
Unless he's worked with them and hey, these.
But I think that'll be interesting to see who he bring in.
There's going to be former teammates of his that are going to be probably come into play. And I don't know if that's going to be his right-hand man right off the bat, but could it be Paul Stastny? I mean, they're best of friends. Paul's a very smart guy. I do find with a lot of former players, Jamal, and I just went through the list. And you look at the current general managers in the NHL right now, and the guys who had long, successful playing careers are not having success as managers. The general managers who didn't play or who had very short NHL careers and didn't have a lot of success as players are having success as NHL executives right now. But when you look at the Yzermans of the world and you compare that to Army and Billy Zito's, the Jim Nills of the world, you look at the general manager in Colorado, you look at the general manager in Washington right now, you look at Rob Blake, how that went down in Los Angeles. Stan Bowman, I know he inherited that team. Treliving inherited Toronto, so it's tough to judge them. This could change over time, but right now, the general managers who grinded it out and came up scouting and truly know how to build teams and evaluate talent versus players who kind of stepped into that role after having a long playing career. I'm just saying that's just what it looks like right now. Look at it.
You want to take a snapshot. So you're going to say that Chris Drury's a failed executive?
Right now he is.
Well, they won the President's Trophy last year. Last year you would have said he's the best executive.
I wouldn't have said that. I'm just coming off of this year.
Okay, so you're going to take 1 year. So Bill Guerin?
Bill Guerin's the exception. I've said that. I actually said that. Bill Guerin is a very good manager.
Bill Armstrong?
And let me say this about Billy. Let me say that Bill Armstrong didn't have a long NHL career.
I didn't say he played.
Did he even? I don't even know if he played in the NHL. Okay, and I'll say this about Chris Drury, and I'll say this about Billy Guerin. Billy Guerin grinded it out for years as a scout. For years working with Pittsburgh. Chris Drury grinded it out for years as a scout. And, they didn't get anything handed to them, right?
No, I'm just saying, I think it's a case by case.
It is.
Some guys, it's like coaching, very similarly.
Yeah.
Some former players are terrible coaches because they're almost too good and don't understand how to break it down and
communicate
and have the patience with how do you not know how to do that?
Right. Where Marty St. Louis can relate to everybody in that dressing room because he was a fourth line guy. He was undrafted. He was traded. He's every experience a player has had, he can relate to. And this doesn't mean that any former player who steps in and becomes a general manager isn't going to have success. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just looking at it across the board right now. It's interesting when you evaluate who's having success as a GM this season and their background. And I started to think of it, honestly, when I watched Steve Yzerman's end of the year press conference. I didn't like it. Felt like, I
think your point is a good one.
Yeah.
If you narrow it further and say, if you don't do the required work as a scout, it's not enough to be a great player to step into that.
Correct. And that's what I mean.
I think that's more what you're
Billy Guerin grinded it for years. I used to talk to him all when he was working with Pittsburgh. This guy was all over the place. He ran American League teams. Like he put in his work. He didn't
It seemed like, look at Ryan Johnson. I think he'll be a GM soon.
But he's been grinding.
He's been grinding it out. He
wasn't a superstar player either. So I'm referring to the
superstars.
Okay. Like I'm referring to superstars.
Okay. So you keep changing your point.
No, I know. But that's where I'm going with it, And I'll be curious if Mark Bergevin gets another chance here. It would only make sense if he were to slide in and become the next GM of LA. He's been with the team every single day the last couple of years.
He's friends with Robitaille.
And he's best friends with Robitaille. And typically you're better your second go-around than you are your first go-around. And he also grinded it out for years, scouting and working with the Blackhawks and everything he did. So
that'll be interesting. You're right.
Yeah, so this whole mindset came from watching Steve Yzerman's press conference. And I'm like, dude, you haven't made the playoffs once in your time there in Detroit. The organization's missed in 9 consecutive years. Kevin Adams in Buffalo right now, they're struggling. They're bringing in like Eric Stahl. I hope Eric Stahl's been watching hockey, because you could just bring in guys who had long playing careers and assume that they're just going to have all the answers. You got to watch the game. You got to know the players in the league. So, but Yzerman didn't like the questioning and the line of questioning. And I think if he had to do that over again, I think you have to understand where the media is coming from. It wasn't hardcore questioning. The Detroit media is not an aggressive media. It's not New York. And I just didn't think it was very respectful how he answered some of the questions.
Yeah, it was.
And that his captain is coming out publicly and challenging him. Like, I don't even know why Larkin would even do that, but he did that.
Yes.
And so you're going to be asked about it.
Well, he should have a prepared, canned answer for that. He was thrown off somehow. I didn't like also when he said, "Oh, sorry, I wasn't listening to what Todd was saying."
Yes, and say, "I don't care what you think." To another guy, I was like, "Jesus!" They asked him about the Jake Wallman trade because they attached a second rounder just to get rid of Wallman. Then Edmonton gives San Jose a first rounder to get him. He didn't want to get into that. So it's like Patrice Berg or Julien Brisebois in Tampa Bay is another one. He's had tremendous success, no playing background. There's so much of running an organization is that level of business acumen too, and the ability to just lead. That Yzerman obviously showed great leadership. This is not about him as a player. This guy is one of the greatest players ever, one of the greatest captains ever. But that doesn't automatically mean you're going to be a great manager or you don't deserve to be asked questions when things aren't going in the right direction. So, and he may end up coming back and having a great year next year.
I think the defining point to me that I got out of this is if you do the work, then that experience on top of having played makes you a better manager. If you just slide into a role without having done the work,
right,
then I think it becomes, I don't know if that works.
Yeah.
That's kind of
so. I think when you make Brendan Shanahan, these guys go and work for the league. Pronger went and worked for the league. Stefan Quintel went and worked for the league. Rob Blake did. I think they don't automatically just get premier jobs. Some of them slide into it, but let's be honest. Brendan Shanahan, he's more of a face than a grinded out. Just he's going to make a lot of decisions there in Toronto. I don't know exactly how it goes down, but I would think that Tree Living's involved in the day-to-day grind. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so Pronger, I think he wanted to be executive at one point, but that didn't go that direction. Don Waddell's he built Carolina, played, didn't have great playing career, but he played and knows how to build teams. There's something to be said for people who know how to build teams. And having to be able to sit back and watch and observe a guy like Doug Armstrong, how he does it, he's been very successful. And Lou Lamoriello didn't play. I mean, there's just been a lot, a lot of examples, I'm sure you could tell me a bunch of examples of guys who had great careers. I think Joe Nieuwendyk tried to get involved with management.
Yeah, he was with the Leafs.
Didn't last too long, right?
Yeah.
Brian Burke had some success, didn't play. Who are the guys that had great careers? It is like coaching. I would agree with you. I think it's tough. But I would say coaching's different just from talking to players. I think there is something to be said for a coach who did play.
Yeah, I think if you didn't play, then you need to surround yourself with assistants that played. I think that's
and Jim Montgomery, he did play. You know what I mean? And he was one of the best, if not, he's top 5, top 10 college player ever.
Yeah, having Korea helped, but yeah, he was good before he got there. I just always.
But he's got the respect.
Absolutely. No, I think he was born 25 years too early. I think he would be.
Yeah, you said that before.
I think he'd be an amazing player.
So it's not a shot at anything or anybody. I'm just laying it out there in terms of what I see. But Billy Guerin would be the one guy who I would say, wow, he had a great career and he's got a firm handle in terms of how he's running that organization right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
When he's been up against it, dealing with some shit that other general managers haven't had to deal with the dead money and some of that other stuff, and having the balls to come in and cut a few guys loose.
That's where his playing experience helps.
Yeah.
Cutting it right away. Whether you like it or not, he needed to get rid of Suter and Parise and the issues that were in that locker room.
Yeah.
That he knew and he couldn't live with anymore.
Correct.
So I don't think
he hasn't sense a feel for the team.
I don't think he has that. I don't think he makes that decision if he hadn't played and wasn't the guy he was.
Ron Francis is another one. Great career. Just
there are examples.
Jamal, because I knew Jamal played over 900 games. He was like, wait a minute,
I wasn't a great player.
No, but you played a long time, so it's not always about. I'm not talking great. When I say great player, to me it doesn't mean Hall of Fame player. You play 900 games, like pretty good. So you play 15 years in the NHL. That's for anybody. I mean, Kevin Adams probably played a number of games too, right? He played for a long time.
I'm not sure how many, but not.
So
500 maybe less than 500.
Like, get it together, Buffalo. Like, let's go.
It's time. I think though, like he should have, in my opinion, brought in someone with tremendous experience as like a confidant to help make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just want to protect your space,
right?
But at what cost, right? I think that's where in my opinion, that's where the organizational mistake was.
Mm-hmm. And Steiner may be a great general manager, and like I was talking to others about this doesn't mean that I'm suggesting, like, if I was an owner, I was interviewing guys, it's not like I would probably lean towards the guy who played a long time and had success versus the guy that didn't play. You know what I mean? You would think right off the bat. So I think Steiner is a little bit different that way. I think he's a little more patient from that standpoint. I think he'll be a little more methodical. I think learning under Army, to your point, of being able to have experienced guys around him is going to help him. And I got all the faith in the world that he'll be a good executive.
I think he'll do a great job. Great teammate. Played with him for a little bit. Understands what it takes to win. Grew up around it. Like all those things that he just absorbed. And just a quality person that knows what it takes to win and knows the sacrifice that's required, and you're not going to fool him. And I think that he's got all the qualities, and that patience, that quality of patience is going to be important too.
What'd you think of Joel Quenneville getting hired in Anaheim?
I think it's fantastic.
Pat Verbeek's another one. I love you, Patty. He had a great career too. But I think he'll get things going in Ottawa. And now, look, he goes out, and I didn't know about his previous coaching hire, Cronin, who seemed to be an aggressive, hardcore, throwback, drill sergeant type coach from the outside. And Joel is just a guy who, I mean, you can't convince me he wasn't the best coach available, and they went out and got him.
Yeah, I never played for 8 or 9 coaches in the NHL, a lot of them unbelievable coaches. There's no better coach, in-game coach than Joel.
Is that what separates him?
His in-game adjustments, his awareness. Let me put it this way to you. Everybody in the lineup knew they could eat up some minutes. The way you started the game allowed you to take up more minutes. What I mean by that, as a fourth line guy, play well, start well. I can take some of the third line guys' minutes. I can take 3 shifts from them if I play well.
Yeah.
Third line guy can take some shifts from the second line guy. Second line guy can take.
What's it like being a player when you're on the bench? You know you're going, and you've gotten off to a good start, and then now all of a sudden the coach is tapping you on the shoulder, and you're going out on the ice and you know he sees that too. Because I'm sure there are fourth line guys who feel like they got off to a great start, but they're still, hey, the coach just still looks at you as the fourth line guy, and they're just still giving everybody else the opportunity.
It changes the whole dynamic of expectation in a game, because everyone knows their ice time can either be taken away or they can get more. And so he has a tremendous feel for that. And it's just 2 or 3 shifts that makes a world of difference. You get on the ice with like the first line for a couple of shifts, you're like, oh, he's recognizing what I'm doing here. And then it creates accountability for the first line guys. Yeah. And so I think that he'll bring energy, he'll bring passion, he'll instant credibility for his higher end players, having coached some of the best. And he will get them playing a more consistent game, and they're going to enjoy it. They're going to have fun coming to the rink.
Why? Because he makes it fun?
Makes it fun. Practices were like short. Like, I'll tell you a funny story. When I met back up with Joel, I was 37, my last 2 years in Chicago, and I had not played for him. I played for him my first 5 years, so then I hadn't seen him for 10 years.
Before you were reunited in Chicago.
Correct. And we get back there, and the first practice, I'm like, guys are like shocked, like, why are you going first? I'm like, I know this drill.
Same practice.
No, same practice. I know the drill. They're like, I go, he was doing this 10 years ago. This is the same. He had, and it's his methodology, he wanted the players just to play with pace and instinct. And he had his catalog of 15 drills. Yeah. And that's what he did. And so it was more important to be crisp, to be instinctual, to play with pace. And I think as a player, we would joke, like, what's the over-under today? 38. Okay. Is it going to be 38? Now, it wasn't like that at the beginning of the year. 38 minutes. It's like quick, and then you're out of there. I think the players are going to love that. Get out there, rip it up. 40. It's not going to be like that at the beginning of the year. They'll go classic longer. But as you get into the season, players, I think it's just they're going to have fun. Joel, and I like
practice as much as that they did, even when you were
no, and I like as a coach, as a player, I liked a coach with emotion, and Joel's going to have emotion on the bench, and I think that it's important. It's an emotional game. I always found it interesting. Some of the coaches that are so like unemotional,
lack a little presence.
I'm like, I need some
fire.
Like, are you seeing this?
Yeah.
Let's go.
And he's got your back.
And then we're in this together. And we go, yeah. This is why we're here.
Is he a rah-rah guy, Joel? Before games, is he coming in?
Come in. The same routine, the same, very habitual in that regard about what he's going to do, what the expectation is, how we're doing it, and let's go play.
Yeah.
So, he's going to keep guys accountable. He's going to have a very defined way how they want to play. And I think I'm happy for him as a person, because he went and did the work required to understand the gravity of what took place. And I can assure you that without that work being done in an honest way, in a way to get better as a person, we can assign blame however we want to, but he went and did the work, and it's time to move on.
And he sat out for 4 years.
I mean, he did his time, and he learned from it, and I'm happy for him and happy for his family, and Excited for him.
Be careful what you say on Twitter because PLZ might get you too. See, PLZ's coming. He's coming after anybody who says anything bad about Coach Q right now. Also, so.
Oh my goodness.
So, anyway, well, congrats to Joel and to Anaheim. Looking forward to seeing him back behind the bench
and Boo
and Dylan and Anna, the whole family. They've been waiting a long time for this.
Yes.
So, real quick, let's go through some of these series real quick. I mean, the Mikko Rantanen just explosion has just been one of the most incredible things I've seen in a long time. I feel like his Game 7 performance was up there with like Mark Messier's Game 7 performance in the game against Colorado. Maybe better.
Well, he didn't guarantee it, so that's maybe Mess is better. But
and it wasn't New York,
but it's your former team.
Yes.
They traded you Carolina thinking you're going to the East. You end up in Dallas playing against them.
They're like, it's okay, we'll just move him to Carolina. We'll never see him again.
But
ends up in Dallas.
I don't understand how this happened.
I know.
Think about it. Think about it if you are Nathan McKinnon going into your year-end meeting.
Oh, I mean, God, we talked about that, Cam and I. Like you already know how livid he is anyway and how mad he was when he found out that the trade was made because they were completely blindsided. Think about Jared Bednar. He's blindsided. His comments the day of the trade, it felt like a funeral there in Colorado. So McKinnon, who essentially runs that organization,
Does he though?
Well, doesn't run it, but you know what I'm saying. He says whatever he wants.
Yes.
So, and he can do that. So, he was not shy with his opinions.
It's just, everybody thought that they would get it together and figure it out. And
are they better off letting him walk and going for another run?
Yeah.
Because I will say this, if they let him walk and they get to the Stanley Cup final or even win the Stanley Cup, it's worth it.
It is worth it. And then you don't have Natchez. That's difficult. I don't think you make decisions like with that gravity of a player. You can't let him walk.
I get it.
I mean, with the cap going up, you couldn't have.
It's
a
Colorado.
player that's been at one place for a long time, they're going to take it.
Go sign Mitch Marner in the offseason.
You put like $100 million into their.
Yeah.
It's hard to say no, to stay, right? Because you're having dinners with Nate, and you're like, Nate's going to be like, dude, did they offer you? He's like, yeah, 8 years. You're like, dude, what's the difference between 13 and 15? Like, that's not changing your life. Just stay. We got a good thing here.
I don't think they even got.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't know what there's a lot of cloudiness in terms of what was truly offered. I tweeted it at the time what I was told by his camp. I'm trying to remember exactly, but
Well, my point is, it was probably 12 at least. Mm-hmm. But if it's 12 or it's 14, which he probably deserved on the open market, and Nate, maybe what is Nate at? It's AAV.
Right. And you're keeping the group together and you're living in Colorado.
Take a little bit less, or talk to Nate and say, Nate, are you okay if we give him $250,000 more just because the timing? And he would have been like, oh, that's fine. It's either that or he leaves.
Or he leaves.
No. Yeah, do that.
Yeah. It's funny how it all plays out because, Carolina got a player in Logan Stankoven who's having a great playoff.
I really like him.
I loved him last year. Like, he was scoring big. He's one of those guys, like a Claude Lemieux type, who may not put up the, monster numbers in the regular season, but he's going to come to play in the playoffs and he's going to be an impact player.
He's an awkward-looking player.
Yeah.
Like, just watching him. But you see, there's a lot of video of him on the internet of all the stuff he does training-wise.
What does he do?
Does a ton of shooting, ton of situational shooting stuff. So those plays that he gets in the puck in the slot and he shoots and he scores, or maybe he's falling off balance.
He's working on.
He's done it hundreds of.
Does he remind you of like a Brendan Gallagher or
better shooter?
Better shooter.
Because Gallagher can't score from the top of the circle,
price.
But he's got that dog in him. That Verbeek Gallagher, like get your nose in there over your stick, and like Arvidsson, he's got that in him, but more skill. But it's not natural skill. I know that I don't want that to sound rude. Yeah. I think he's worked to get to that level of skill.
Arvidsson, I fell asleep during the overtime last night. Did he get hurt? He only played
Oh, really?
He didn't play much.
Well, he played well. He had 2 assists. A fantastic one on the first goal where he does this tremendous hesitation move at the hash mark when he receives the puck that's rimmed, buys himself time, goes all the way around the net, makes a nice little play, and then gets himself to the front of the net, falls down, but gets in the way and obstructs the goalie, and they score. Yeah, I really like the way he's played, and Henrique has played, and Brown have played.
Yeah.
It's funny that when all those guys left, the question was, where are they going to get the depth? Their depth this year in the playoffs has been better than it was last year.
Yeah, they don't. Arvidsson played 11:32, and the game went
What has
into
he been playing?
and the game went into overtime. So, but it's amazing. I mean, you've got McDavid and Draisaitl and Hyman and Nugent Hopkins. They eat up all the minutes.
Yeah.
Offensively, it's like almost as if they don't ever come off the ice. But he had been playing 9:41 last game.
So that's it.
7.5 the game before that, 8.5 the game before that.
Like I talked about on Sportsnet on Hockey Night Canada is, the depth of the Oilers has been really almost going to be a case study if they end up winning. Because what they've done and what the Leafs have done in bringing in Patch is they're bringing in guys who were top 6 guys.
Yeah, who then?
Top 6 guys who are willing to become bottom 6 guys.
And I said that earlier in the year, where if I was a general manager, I would look for those type of players. I brought up Pacioretty when Ryan Suter was playing like 23, 24 minutes. Give me a guy who knows how to play, who's got man strength, as Ryan Suter always says that he has. He may run out of gas at some point and maybe can't sustain that. But, when Broberg went down and all of a sudden this guy's playing 23, 24 minutes every single night, it's like, find me a Corey Perry. Find me one of these guys that were elite players their entire career and still have the passion to play and know how to play the game.
That's the key. That's a mental decision. Can you Patch decided, okay, I can do that. I'm going to get 7 hits a night. Never hit in his life.
Right.
Ever.
Exactly.
But it's the willingness and the mindset like, oh, I can go do that.
Yeah.
I want to win. I'm going to go do that. And so you find those guys that are like, yeah, that's fine. I'll play 12 minutes and do that.
Right.
They were top 6 guys.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can find those guys. And that's
like captains.
I'd be making a list. Like I would look at the list and create a list of 8 players out there.
Where are those guys?
They're on every team. Every team has 1 or 2. They just don't know they're not a top 6 anymore.
You know who could do that and play for several more years is Brad Marchand.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That's a good example.
Like if he wants to be that guy, he could play for another 5 years.
Make 2.5 on a winning team, bottom 6.
And run around.
Yep.
And still score a big goal.
Yep. But play less. Play 12 minutes a night.
Yeah. And help.
Yeah. Mentor, leadership. He's a really good example because he's really brought those 2 line mates of his, and I know how he is in a conversation. It's going to be like, hey, we can score.
Yeah.
We can create plays.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, he told me I could make a play.
Yeah, because they still want to score.
Yeah.
Corey Perry still wants to score. Pacioretty, didn't he score a big goal the other night too?
He did twice on the same goal.
Oh, yeah.
Tipped it in, then put it in again.
Yeah. And if Taves comes back, maybe he's going to learn to be that guy.
Oh, he'll have to be. He's not top 6.
No, he won't be a top 6. But I mean, is he?
He's, dude, if he comes back, people are going to be shocked. I love that people are questioning whether he
really. Why do you say that?
Because just knowing him, he's not going to do it if he can't do it.
Mm-hmm. Can he play center?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like if he's going to do it, he's the perfect example of a guy who could play in the third line and on a winning team and play 14 minutes and be fine and kill penalties. He doesn't even have to be in the power play.
Right.
He'll fill in when someone's hurt.
See, and Ryan Suter, to your point, on the defensive side, he'll play 15 minutes. You know what I mean?
Well, the question is this to me is like, as much as I loved Ryan Suter and what he was able to do, you've got to make a decision at some point on whether or not that's Tucker's ice time now.
Well, I don't think you run it back. I think for this year though, he gave you
unbelievable
what you needed.
value.
I don't think you do it again.
That's my point is that I think that's now. Yeah. I'm not saying Tucker takes up 22, 23 minutes, but maybe Tucker's an 18-minute every night guy.
And they need to go out and find another third pair of defensemen.
Yes.
Letty, I don't know if.
No, I love Leds.
Yeah.
I think that's why I'm asking what's internally there.
Well, they got
to develop.
Yes, Leo Lindstein and some of these guys, but they will not force the issue. The difference is the bar has been raised now for the Blues coming into next season where they got to win, right? And they know they want to win and they can win. And, are they going to compete for a top 3 spot in the Central Division? They're going to want to add players this offseason and maybe make a hockey trade here or there. So,
the fourth line, it'd be interesting. Are those guys contractually?
Fox is up.
That'd be interesting to see.
And let me ask you this, because you have Sundqvist under contract for another year. He's going to have to be a fourth line center or an extra forward, really. You got Shen at 6.5. You probably want him moving down to a 3-hole if he comes back versus being a second line center. So Fox is coming off of a 5-year deal that was paying him more than $3 million per year, Jay.
Yeah, Sonny goes in there and they got to go out. I don't
know if you can bring Fox back for 3.
No. Fox say they let go, and they let Sonny play in that hole in the fourth line, and then they go out and they try to find a second line center, and then they put Schenner on the third line.
The perfect player, I keep saying, if you could get him, which is maybe unrealistic. I don't know. Sam Bennett would be my number one target. Now, if I'm Bennett, do I leave? If Florida offers me $6 million per year with a bunch of signing bonus money with no state taxes, do I leave and go somewhere else for $7 million a year? I don't know if I do that.
I think he's going to want to stay. Just because of his experience and how things went in Calgary and like
what it's done for his career.
He's not going to chase the shiny thing. He's a winner. He's going to want to. I mean, this would be an attractive place for him.
Yeah.
As well, because they're on the cusp of, in the next 2-3 years. It fits the mold of what they are. But I think if they get close, money-wise, he's staying.
Yeah.
He's going to want to stay. Tough to leave the place you won.
Yeah. No, I got you.
And you're a big part of it.
All right, we got to get out of here real quick. Toronto, can they come back? Can Florida come back? Or you see a sweep? Possibly.
I do not see a sweep.
You see a tired team in Toronto, and Matthew Tkachuk's not close to 100%. It's obvious, so he's banged up and trying to play through it.
I think Toronto wins in 6.
Okay.
I think you're dealing with the Stanley Cup champions. They could very easily win 2 at home and tie the series. But I think the Leafs find a way.
Washington, Carolina, 1-1 now.
Yeah, I think Carolina figures it out.
Okay. Vegas, Edmonton.
Shocking.
Can Vegas win some games on the road and force this into a deep series?
Shocking to me. Edmonton's goalie, everyone loves him on TV and talk. He scares me. Just in the net, doesn't.
You're gonna follow.
They'll look away like, oh my god.
But they can score 5 goals a game. That's the difference.
Yeah, I think that their depth is better, and you've got the 2 best players in the world. I didn't think they could do this, but what's most impressive has been their commitment to defending. They allowed 17 shots in game 1, so it's
that's the difference. And they're getting a lot of offense from their defense right now.
They are, and some shrewd moves by Bowman, Wallman, and right-handed Finnish D, the old guy with the 2 hips.
Well, it's not Ekholm who's hurt, right?
No, the right-handed. 2 new hips.
Oh, I have to. Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about, and because Nurse is actually playing better, Bouchard's actually playing better too.
Klingberg.
Oh, Johan Klingberg. He looks mobile. He falls down a couple times at an inopportune moment.
New hips.
I know, but you know what?
He can pass.
But he's 10-2 in it, and he knows what to do in the offensive end. So
no, just the outlet passes too. Game 1 is impressive. Nice adjustments by Vegas in the neutral zone in game 2.
Yeah, no, that's another guy. You just veteran guys who know how to play the game. There's something to be said for that. Okay, so you got Edmonton winning that series, right?
I do.
Okay, and then Dallas and Winnipeg. Can Winnipeg? How close can they make this, in your opinion?
Their goaltender scares me. I think Winnipeg's going to figure it out and make this a series.
Really?
I think it's going to go 7.
I think Dallas is going to win the cup. Poof. I do. There's something about them. They're going to get Heiskanen back. They just got Robertson back. They don't even have Heiskanen. Their best defenseman.
They got to get the scoring. I mean, God. Wyatt Johnston's -9.
I know.
Like, they got to get contributions from other people.
He scored some big goals, though.
But, yeah, on the power play.
Yeah.
They're going to need, I think that they need Duchesne, Ben, and 91, Sagan to be better. That line, they started to get some chances, but it can't just be all on one guy.
Okay.
I know you like how well they're playing, but
there is a fun team to watch. Some teams just have that.
Rantanen, it's gonna run out soon.
Okay, so you don't, but you see them getting past Winnipeg or no?
I do, but it's gonna go 7.
Okay. and then a great Western Conference final. We'll get into that later.
Yep.
All right. Hope you keep coming back, Jamal.
Let's do it.
Okay. What's for dinner this weekend? Because I'm hungry.
Yeah. Bartolino's, 5 restaurants: Bartolino's South, Bartolino's Austria, Chris's Pancake and Dining, Chris at the Docket, and Bartolino's Twin Oaks, the newest one. I know you were there for a family celebration. They forged many lasting relationships with their customers. Their family motto: cook good food, serve plenty. 50 plus years in business. Only 2 places to dine: at home or one of Bartolino's family of restaurants.
Dobbs Tire and Auto Center, though, Jamal. If you need tires, there's only one place to go.
Well, they have over 40 locations. Dobbs is offering unbelievable deals on Goodyears, Coopers, Continentals, BF Goodrich. Doesn't matter what it are. The best thing is, if it's a car, light truck, van, SUV, hybrid, EV, doesn't matter what it is. They have a team of experienced tire technicians and ASE certified associates to service them all. You know what they say? They'll get your car in, up, fixed, and out the same day. Go to Dobbs.com for more.
There you go. And listen, First Community brings us Hockey Sense each and every week. They have a new branch, by the way. You already know they already have over 40 locations in Missouri and Illinois, but now they're adding another this month in Sunset Hills. So big shout out to everybody there in Sunset Hills. Look for the new First Community branch located at the intersection of South Lindbergh and West Watson Road. So great location. Can't miss it. It's brand new. I mean, beautiful, full service branch. They've got the drive-through. They've got the ATM Plus, all the great service. So for a complete list of branches and hours, visit firstcommunity.com. And, of course, Little Blues, don't forget about that. We appreciate all our sponsors. Again, travelhouse.com. You're looking to book that summer vacation, do it today. Call Gail, travelhouse.com. That's Haus, Travel House. We love all our sponsors that bring us Hockey Sense each and every week live from Half Coast Studios. Jammer, have a great weekend.
You too, buddy.
See you, everybody.